The 21st letter, this letter, like many letters, are about tzedakah, charity. And the Alter Rebbe is inspiring people that they should give their pledge, what they've already pledged, to give to the tzedakah that he is collecting for the poor, the destitute in the Holy Land of Israel. And instead of giving once a year their pledge, give it monthly or even every week. And what the Alter Rebbe explained till now was about alacrity, swiftness. Don't wait to do the mitzvah, do it swiftly. So if you have the opportunity that you could give tzedakah now, give now instead of holding on and giving it at a certain time or a certain like a larger amount, let's say, at once. That shows the swiftness that you want to fulfill the mitzvah. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to give the whole thing now if you don't have the whole thing now, but if you're giving now instead of just waiting to give it as a big, one-time donation is what we're talking about. Now the Alter Rebbe gives more reasons for this. Quoting from Maimonides, or Rambam, says that when you give tzedakah, charity, you give it once. Well, the act of giving is great, but the refinement is that one time. But if you are constantly giving, even though it's smaller amounts and it adds up to the same amount as one-time giving, but the act, we follow our actions, so to speak, in this respect. And the fact that we're constantly doing an act of being compassionate, being charitable, that's refining us. So if we do the act one time, even though it's a larger amount, as opposed to consistently, constantly giving, the refinement is consistent and constant rather than a one time. Therefore, again, it can be the same amount. It can be the same, let's say, $1,000 that you're going to give. But instead of giving in one shot, so that is an act, because the act of doing a mitzvah, and especially of giving, is a refinement. But furthermore, you're refining yourself consistently, constantly. That's another reason why you should not give charity in just one big lump sum, but give it every week, every month. Here in this particular case, with the Alter Rebbe speaking to the charity that he's collecting to, of course, that's why we have charity boxes, pushkas, as they're commonly known, tzedakah boxes, because that way we're constantly putting in money, constantly doing the act of charity. By the way, parenthetically, the Rebbe said that we should have a tzedakah, not only have charity boxes, and we should have it in every room, in our children's room, that it should be a function, a part of what they're about, being charitable. Not like, you have one place where the charity boxes are. No. In a child's room, they should have Torah books. They should have a charity box, that this is part and parcel of who they are, constantly giving, and not just, giving in the collective place in the home, the kitchen, living room, whatever it might be. Very different than a piggy bank, that it's all about, hey, getting money from me afterwards. The pig's way. Sorry, no insult there. Furthermore, the Rebbe said, should have in one place, in a primary location, the kitchen in particular, a pushka, charity box, that is fastened to the home. So now, the Rebbe gives an interesting twist, and this parenthetical, Alter Rebbe is not saying this, but I feel it's an important point. So now what happened is you have a charity box that is fastened to the home, So the question, who's fastened to who? Yeah. So of course the home is so much bigger, and charity. No. The Rebbe says now the walls of the home become part of the act of charity, because the walls are fastened to the charity box. Right? In other words, what's the main thing? Main thing is having walls? No. I mean, you need walls of a home. You need a roof, of course. If a leaky roof, not good. As I know, I have one. Or in the shul, we have. Not good. Yeah, but are the walls the main point of the house? Or is the mitzvah the main point? So when you fasten a pushka to your walls, now the walls become a vehicle of mitzvah. Because the most important thing is the mitzvah. Interesting idea. So, have that pushka in a place where you can see it, and constantly be giving. That's the Jewish way. Oops. Okay. Sorry. That's the Jewish way. The refinement of character through the act of giving. Furthermore, the Alter Rebbe says, every mitzvah we do, but in particular the act of tzedakah, we create a union in the divine level between male and female. Just like there's union down here, create a union. We create a union between the male, which is the 6 emotional divine attributes, and the female, which is malchus, royalty, kingship. There's a union between the two, and that begets new life, a new light of God that is brought into the world. New life. By every time we do the act of charity, we're bringing new life, new light of God into the world. And specifically, through the act of giving charitable. Why? Because God is giving life to that who doesn't have life, because we don't have life on our own. So it is God's act. And how is that activated? It's not just a parallel over here by us, but we're actually activating by us giving to someone who doesn't have, right? A person doesn't have, an institution that needs, right? By giving to those that don't have, you're now eliciting from on high, you're drawing, arousing from on high that God should give to those that don't have. And what is that? All of creation. Because none of creation, we don't have life of our own. I don't have an energizing bunny that I'm self-created, self-living. No, dependent on the vitality of God. How am I arousing that? By giving to that which doesn't have. And then that is then arousing God to give to us that we don't have life of our own. Amazing idea. Powerful. The Alter Rebbe goes further, especially in times of exile. Especially in a time of exile. Because in a time of exile, even God doesn't have. Because the Shekhinah, the divine presence of God, is in exile. It's fallen to the ground, so to speak. Well, how do you pick it up? Someone who doesn't have. Who doesn't have? God's presence doesn't have. It's in exile. It's hidden. Through the act of charity, we're lifting it up. That presence of God. And that's why it says, the act of charity brings, being charitable, brings closer the redemption. That's how great charity is. Until finally Mashiach will come. And what will happen? The Shekhinah, the divine presence of God, will be reinstated. Of course, God is here. But his presence, that is palpable and real for us, isn't. That's why people are doing, do wrong things. Because the presence of God is impalpable, isn't real. That will be reinstated. And how particularly is that going to be done? Through the act of charity. Every mitzvah does it, absolutely. But specifically tzedakah. That's why the Rebbe every Sunday would give out dollars to inspire people to give tzedakah. That's how great it is. That you are lifting up that which is lacking. The person, or the institution that is helping the person, right? Because charity is not just given to people that are in need, but it's given to institutions that are helping those that are in need. And those in need doesn't mean just food. Actually, food for thought is even more important. Food for the soul is even more important than just food for the mouth. Now, of course, you have to have food for the mouth, that, you have physical life, but spiritual life, learning Tanya. That's even greater. So giving to those who don't have, materially, spiritually, and lifting them up. And who also doesn't have? In that respect, God. His presence in this world. It's in exile. Has fallen. Doesn't have. And by giving, we're lifting up. The other, God, his presence, and therefore we're eliciting on high, and by that act, we elicit on high to bring a union of the divine down here that brings light, life, and lifting up and bringing redemption, the final redemption. Very powerful. Chris, give donations online. Yes, absolutely. You set up an ATM in the kitchen. Hey, that's a great idea. Put an ATM to your wall. No. So right now, put a charity box. Fasten it somewhere in your kitchen. Particularly the kitchen, because that's, people spend a lot of time there. Fasten it there, so your home now becomes, your walls literally become a part of a mitzvah. Fascinating idea. Margot Lazata from Poland, welcome. Ostrina, thank you for joining. Olena. Sandy, good morning. Ellen from LA, good morning. Shanna from Europe. You can get pushkas that are made for this, charity boxes, where there can be a hole over there that you can screw it into the wall. Robert from the UK, Jeremy from Barcelona. The mezuzah that's affixed to the doorpost is about always being aware of the presence of God. So, yes, so you're right. It's making the home now a vehicle for that presence of God and God's blessings. Right. Here, tzedakah is taking it to the next level. Frima from Montreal, thank you for joining. Priya from India, thank you for joining. Is the Cancer Foundation a form of charity? Yes, it is a form of charity. The greatest form of charity is, yes, it is for the greatest form of charity is helping, from a Jewish perspective, is helping people coming closer to Hashem, to God, helping Jewish people in Torah and mitzvahs, in their relationship with God through Torah and mitzvahs, through Judaism. Those are the, and helping individuals, or in institutions helping individuals, again, in materially and spiritually. Those are, Cancer Foundation is also, it's more peripheral. It's more peripheral as opposed to direct. There's room for both. But in the priority, though, well, let's say giving to a museum, that's cultural. Museum is not helping directly in any way that someone is getting closer to God, to being a better person. I hate to say this, but excuse me, Nazis were very cultural. Really enjoyed a museum and make them good people. So it's more about, not culture. So you give them to a film festival. What is a film doing? That's it, giving you entertainment. Now, of course, medical is very different. So there is a mitzvah in giving to a medical cause, but it is not as important as giving to a cause that is helping directly someone in need, physical needs and spiritual needs. Those are, in prioritizing. And in that prioritizing, there's giving to those that you are connected through, your physical community, your online community, like Chabad.org and the like. Those that provide for, the spiritual nourishment and so on. All right. Even if you don't have, you still have to give, believe it. Of course, you're going to give less than someone who has. It could be a small amount, but it's still giving. We all have to give. Denise is asking, how do you give to what I'm... if you go to ChabadZichron.com, so over there, and it'll just be in Canadian funds. Thank you, Denise. That's very kind. So don't feel compelled you have to give to Chabad Zichron. If you would like to, by all means. Yes, Karen Ashana, Erica, very good. Thank you actually for reminding me I have to give there. Myself, I had it in mind and Mary Claire, thank you for sharing that, how that charity has changed her life. Beautiful. Great comments. Angel is asking, how is a medical need not a physical need? Well, giving to cancer, you're giving to, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't give to a cancer foundation. Don't get me wrong. I'm talking about prioritizing, right? I'm talking about prioritizing. And especially people who have lots of money to give, you know. So don't get me wrong. Giving to a cancer research is not directly, indirectly will ultimately help. Yes, absolutely, and that's why there's a place for it. I'm not disqualifying it, right? To entertainment things, that I'm disqualifying. I'm not disqualifying. Halacha disqualifies that because that's that you're giving to something that is just to bring out entertainment for people, to some theater foundation. That's not charity. You can give to that if you choose, and you can give anywhere you want, but that's not being that's not part of the mitzvah of tzedakah. So, from a Jewish perspective, and of course anybody can do whatever they want. I'm just teaching you what Judaism is teaching. So, from a the medical need, of course, if someone has a personal medical need and you're helping them, absolutely. That's very important. God forbid someone needs an operation and they can't afford it and it's cost a lot of money and you give to that. Yes. Talking about a foundation that is doing research. That's not direct. It's indirect. Again, as a prioritizing in Jewish law. So I hope that's clear, Angel. And again, choice is yours. Anything else? Hartin is asking, giving to the poor versus a synagogue, which goes first? That's a very good question. Probably to the poor, generally speaking, to the poor as a generality. But if you do have a synagogue or you do have a place where you are inspired by, then there's also a responsibility there too. You have a responsibility there too. Because again, yeah, you have, but it could be that the poor person's going to come first in that respect. In that respect, it could be that the poor person is going to come first. Again, that's about an individual versus an institution. If there's an individual. You know what, there's a lot over here, and we don't have the time for this now, about the nuances over here. But God willing, we're going to have more letters on this, so we'll discuss more. The important thing is, got to give. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zichron Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya, wishing you a wonderful day, a good Erev Shabbos, a wonderful Shabbos, Yom Tov, Chag HaSukkos. Tonight we sit in a sukkah. Sunday morning we start with the lulav and esrog, the 4 species. Please make sure, contact your local Chabad that you get the chance to do the mitzvah. Now it's more challenging than ever because of COVID, but we got to do the mitzvahs. And of course, share the mitzvah with others, because charity is not just, as we've mentioned, feeding the hungry, but a charity of the mind. There's nothing more. Actually, the Talmud says, real poorness. There's only really poorness of the mind of people who don't know. And that's why it's so important to share Tanya, so you can help feed the poor mind that doesn't know of the teachings. Have a great Shabbos, a great Yom Tov. We should celebrate with great joy, with great simcha. So much to talk about this, about Sukkot, the royal embrace. You sit in a sukkah, you're getting a hug from God. We can't hug each other. Why? COVID. Got to stay 6 feet apart. You can't hug each other. But you know what? God is going to hug us tonight. He's going to hug us, because that's what it's, look, a sukkah, 4 walls. A hug is 4 walls. Actually, briefly, you look, that's one kind of hug. Another kind of hug with one arm, which is a sukkah. 2 walls and a bit. That's a kosher sukkah. Or like this. 3 walls. Another way to hug. Doesn't have to be like that. It can be like this, right? All those are 3 different types of sukkah that you can, that are kosher sukkahs, which sorry, I'm just doing this on the fly. This is the word sukkah without the vowel. The vowel's underneath over here. Samach, chaf, hey. 4 walls, 3 walls, 2 walls and a bit. The 3 ways you can make a kosher sukkah is in the very name of sukkah. Because sukkah is about sitting in, with the schach on top, the 4 walls, that we sit in the presence, the divine presence of God. Actually, the term we used today was Sukkah David HaNofeles, the Sukkah of David that fell, which is the Holy Temple, the presence of God. So if sitting in a sukkah, we have the presence of God. God's royal embrace. He's embracing us. No other mitzvah do we have that we're embraced in this physical way by God in the mitzvah, right? Putting on tefillin, it's on you. It's not around you. I mean, a tallis is somewhat around you, partially. But here it's men, women, and children in the royal embrace of sitting in a sukkah. Folks, chaparayim. Get into a sukkah tonight. Jewish people, it's a mitzvah. And not just a mitzvah meaning obligation, a connection, and amazing. And then, of course, the lulav and esrog, the 4 kinds. Give me a second. I'm going to get it for you so you can see it. For some of you who don't know. It's in the bag. You have over here. While we're at it. How can we not talk about sukkahs? I'm sorry. This is the esrog. Citron, from the citron family. Citrus. That's the citron. This is an esrog. This one comes from Israel. Chabad customs to get from Italy, Calabria. This is a lulav, willow branch, hadassim, a myrtle branch, aravis, willow branch. 4 species. It's in the plastic. It's just, you don't do the mitzvah in the plastic. Make sure you take it out of the plastic when you do the mitzvah. And the mitzvah is to make a blessing and bring all 4 kinds together and give a shake. All directions. Preferably, at least the minimalist shake, and then bring it to your heart. Represents 4 different types of Jews that we connect with, all different types. Esrog has a beautiful smell, has a taste. The lulav, its fruit has taste, right? The dates, but no smell. The myrtle branch has a great aroma, but no taste. The willow branch has no taste or no smell. Taste in Hebrew is tam, which also means reason. Why? Because what's a relationship between taste and reason? When you have a reason for something, you have a taste for the thing. You have no reason, no taste for it, right? So that represents someone who has the reasons, a taste for Torah teachings, for Tanya, for Torah, for learning Torah. They have the reasons, they understand, they appreciate, they have a taste. Then you have smell. Smell is metaphorically mitzvahs. Because when you do a mitzvah, there's a lingering effect. Like we're speaking here about tzedakah. There's a lasting effect in the act of doing a mitzvah. So the esrog is a Jew that has both taste and smell, Torah teachings, and mitzvahs. The lulav, taste. The fruit has taste, right? The palm branch, representing a Jew who has Torah teachings, but not the mitzvahs in kind. Then you have the myrtle branch, smell, mitzvahs, but not Torah teachings. Doesn't come to our Tanya class. Then you have the willow branch, weeping willow. Well, willow doesn't have taste or smell. A Jew that doesn't have the study of Torah or they're doing a mitzvah. And what is the mitzvah? Make a blessing and bring them all together and shake. We're one people, united as one. Bound up as one. No matter who you are. That's we're all one people. That's just one idea of this mitzvah. There's so much more. And perhaps next week we will share. Yes, this is called the pitum. Not every esrog has a pitum. This is the bottom, where it grows from. This has to be on the bottom. Absolutely, thank you. Stan can still smell the esrog from here. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if you have to refrigerate them, but you should put some water, to keep it fresh. Absolutely. Okay, folks, have a good Shabbos, a wonderful Yom Tov. Be well. Thank you for joining.